Have you ever caught yourself endlessly scrolling, long past the moment you meant to stop, and yet your thumb moves almost by itself? Notifications popping up like tiny electric shocks, headlines screaming for your attention. The silent pressure to keep up, to respond, to react, and beneath it all, a quiet, gnawing emptiness you can't quite name. It feels like we're living in a storm without realizing it. Not a storm of wind and rain, but of information, images, opinions, and noise. A storm that never sleeps. A storm we willingly carry in our pockets, place by our pillows, and stare into for hours on end. And the strange part is it's invisible. To everyone else you might look perfectly fine, smiling at a dinner table, replying to messages, sharing snapshots of your life. But inside, there's a weight, a restless hum, a sense that no matter what you do, peace is always slipping just out of reach. This is the unseen crisis of our time. The ancient teachers spoke of suffering, of the mind's tendency to grasp, to cling, to be tossed about by the ever-changing winds of life. But what happens when those winds multiply 1,000-fold, carried by glowing screens and endless digital streams? It isn't the devices themselves. A phone is just a phone. A platform just a tool. The storm isn't in the technology, it's in how we let it possess our minds. Somewhere along the way, we stopped using our tools and started letting them use us. Think about it. How often do you check your phone not because you need to, but because you're afraid of being left out? How often do you compare your quiet, imperfect moments to someone else's highlight reel? How often do you feel anxious when there's nothing happening on your screen, as if silence itself is a problem to be solved? This constant tug on our attention isn't accidental. Every beep, buzz, and banner is designed to hook you. Every scroll engineered to keep you chasing the next hit of dopamine. And while our screens promise connection, validation, even happiness, what they often deliver is distraction, comparison, and a creeping sense of inadequacy. It's like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. In ancient Buddhist texts, this restless mind was called the monkey mind. Restless, easily distracted, always leaping from one thing to another. But what the Buddha taught was this: suffering doesn't come from what happens outside of us, it comes from how our minds react to it. The digital age didn't invent suffering. It simply amplified our oldest patterns: craving, aversion, ignorance. It gave them faster vehicles and shinier packaging. And now, many of us live in a constant state of low-grade anxiety. Not loud enough to send us running, but persistent enough to drain our peace, fragment our attention, and make us forget what it feels like to be truly still. We crave silence, yet we fill every moment with noise. We seek calm, yet our fingers twitch for another scroll, another click, another tiny hit of novelty. The most dangerous storms are the ones we no longer notice. Somewhere deep inside, we remember what it felt like. The simple, unhurried mornings. The way time used to stretch long and quiet before the world invaded our pockets. The weightless joy of being present, truly present with the people we love, with a sunset, with the rhythm of our own breath. But these moments have become rare, and when they do arrive, they feel almost awkward. The impulse to reach for a distraction so automatic, it barely registers as a choice. And yet, this isn't a hopeless story. The same teachings that guided seekers thousands of years ago can guide us now, not by asking us to abandon technology, but by changing our relationship to it. Not by demanding we flee modern life, but by helping us return to the only place peace has ever existed, within our own awareness. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. That suffering arises when we cling to what cannot last. And in the digital age, perhaps the thing we cling to most is the illusion of control over our external world. If we can release that grip just a little and turn inward, we'll find that the storm was never outside. It was the wind of our own thoughts, stirred by habits we didn't even know we'd formed. There is a way to live in this world, fully present, fully engaged, and yet deeply at peace. Not because the noise disappears, but because we learn how to stand still within it. The question isn't whether the storm will stop. It's whether we'll find our way back to the quiet center within ourselves, where the winds have no power. And that journey starts now. There's a strange thing happening to our minds, and most of us barely notice it. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, your hand reaches for your phone. Notifications light up the screen, little red dots pulsing like sirens. A text from a friend, an email from work, a headline that sparks a flicker of worry. The world rushes in before you've even taken your first conscious breath. And in that instant, something subtle but profound happens. Your attention, your most precious inner resource, is no longer your own. Modern technology is designed for this. Not to inform you, not to uplift you, not even to entertain you, but to capture you. To hijack your natural patterns of attention and rewire them in service of endless engagement. It's no accident that every social app is a slot machine of dopamine. You swipe, you scroll, you tap, and every so often you're rewarded. A like, a comment, a message, a breaking headline, a tiny burst of novelty, a hit of validation. And like a lab rat pressing a lever for sugar, you keep coming back. The ancient Buddhists spoke of this tendency as tanha, thirst, an insatiable craving that pulls the mind outward, chasing one fleeting satisfaction after another. But what happens when that thirst is no longer occasional, when it becomes constant, fed by infinite streams of content designed to provoke and please? The answer is simple. You lose yourself. Not dramatically, not all at once, but in 1,000 tiny moments, scrolling while you eat, checking your phone in conversations, mindlessly bouncing between apps not because you need to, but because the silence feels unbearable. Bit by bit, your attention fragments, your inner stillness dissolves, and you begin to forget what it means to be fully here, fully alive in this unfiltered moment. What's most alarming is that the modern digital landscape doesn't just distract you, it shapes you. The more time you spend in fast, fragmented spaces, the more your mind adapts to that rhythm. Your thoughts jump, your patience shortens, your capacity for depth withers, and the wisdom traditions have long warned us about this. The Buddha taught that whatever you consistently direct your mind toward, that is what you become. If you feed your awareness with anger, fear, craving, it grows. If you cultivate mindfulness, compassion, clarity, they flourish. In a digital age, most of us are unwittingly training ourselves in restlessness. We rehearse impatience. We practice comparison. We absorb outrage and superficiality as if they were air. And over time, it erodes the soil in which peace could grow. The irony is none of this was inevitable. Technology could have been a tool for wisdom, for reflection, for genuine connection. And in rare, mindful hands, it still can be. But for most of us, it's become a mirror for our mind's most reactive impulses, magnified, accelerated, monetized. Even when we know it's happening, it's hard to stop, because the cycle feeds itself. The more fragmented your attention, the harder it is to focus. The more restless you become, the more you crave distraction. And so it spins, a wheel of craving, what ancient texts called samsara, the endless wandering. But within every storm there's a center, and even here, amidst the digital maelstrom, a path remains. The first step is to see clearly, not with judgment, not with guilt, but with simple, honest awareness. This is what my mind is doing. This is how these apps, these endless feeds, these glowing rectangles are shaping the landscape of my consciousness. And once you see it, even for a moment, you reclaim a sliver of your freedom, because awareness is the beginning of choice. You realize you don't have to check your phone every 10 minutes. You don't have to measure your worth by virtual reactions. You don't have to fill every quiet space with flickering images. There's a deeper, quieter part of you, untouched by algorithms, unscathed by comparison, beyond the reach of trending hashtags. The wisdom traditions call it the witnessing mind, the part of you that simply observes, calm, spacious, aware. It's always been there, waiting, And the beautiful truth is, it only takes a single moment of presence to remember it, a conscious breath, a decision to close a screen and look at the sky, a pause before reacting to yet another headline. These are not small things. They are radical acts in a world designed to hijack you. As the old saying goes, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. In a culture that profits from your distraction, clarity is a rebellion. And every act of mindfulness, every reclaimed moment of attention is a step toward the peace you've been craving. Because peace was never out there, not in the news feed, not in the inbox, not in the next video. It's here, in you. And perhaps it always was. There's a reason why, for thousands of years, seekers from every corner of the world have turned to ancient wisdom when the storms of life felt too heavy. Because while the world outside keeps changing faster, louder, more restless with every passing decade, the nature of the human mind remains much the same. And long before smartphones, before news cycles, before digital distraction, there was already a deep understanding of the mind's habits, its cravings, its fears, its endless search for something to grasp. The Buddha saw it clearly. Over 2,500 years ago, seated beneath a bodhi tree in the stillness of the night, he watched the workings of his own mind with unwavering attention. And what he discovered wasn't some complicated, abstract doctrine. It was something startlingly simple and devastatingly true. Suffering isn't caused by the world. It's caused by the way we cling to it. We crave. We resist. We grasp at things we believe will make us happy. We push away the things we fear. And in that endless cycle of chasing and rejecting, we lose the one thing we truly long for, peace. The Buddha called this restless craving tanha, thirst, an unquenchable hunger for things to be different than they are. Sometimes it's obvious. A desire for success, a longing for love, a craving for approval. But sometimes it's so subtle we barely notice. The urge to check a notification, the irritation at a slow-loading page, the flicker of envy at someone else's perfect post. And every one of those moments pulls us away from the only place peace can ever be found, the present. You see, peace isn't something you achieve. It isn't a reward for being productive enough, liked enough, admired enough. It's what remains when you stop chasing. And this is where Buddhist philosophy offers us a lifeline, not as a religion to believe in, but as a toolkit for reclaiming our minds in a restless world. At the heart of it lies a simple, profound practice, mindfulness. Not just the trendy, surface-level kind sold in self-help books, but true, bare attention. The art of being fully, nakedly present with whatever is here, without grasping, without rejecting, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. When you sit with your breath and feel it rise and fall. When you notice a thought and let it pass without chasing it. When you taste your food as if you've never tasted before. You step outside the storm. You remember that you are not your thoughts, not your impulses, not your worries about tomorrow or your regrets from yesterday. You are awareness itself. And from that space, something remarkable happens. The mind begins to settle. The craving softens. The waves still, if only for a moment. It's no coincidence that ancient Buddhist teachings describe the restless mind as a monkey, swinging wildly from branch to branch. But mindfulness is the gentle hand that invites the monkey to rest, not by force, not by suppression, but by patient, compassionate awareness. And it doesn't mean you withdraw from life. It means you meet life fully without getting lost in it. You check your messages, you answer emails, you sit in traffic, you scroll past 100 opinions, but somewhere inside you remain anchored, untouched, clear. The old masters called this the unshaken mind, like a mountain unmoved by passing storms. And the beauty is, you don't need years in a monastery to touch this. You don't need robes or rituals or perfect silence. You just need this moment, this breath, this willingness to stop running, because every time you pause, every time you notice the craving, the grasping, the restless itch to escape, and choose instead to stay, you step back into your own life. And slowly you remember what peace feels like. not the peace of everything going your way, but the peace of being fully awake, fully alive, amidst it all. It's ancient wisdom, yes, but it's also the most modern rebellion you can stage. Because in a world that constantly pulls your attention outward, the decision to turn inward is radical. To sit, to breathe, to witness, to let go, these are not small acts. They are acts of quiet revolution. And this is the key. Not a secret formula, not a shortcut to eternal calm, but a practice, a path, a remembering. That peace was never something to be found. It was what you already are. And once you taste it, even for a heartbeat, you'll understand why the sages smiled, even as the world spun madly around them. Because the storms come, the noise rises, but in the depths of your own awareness, there's a silence that nothing can touch. And that, my friend, is where our next steps begin. It's strange, isn't it? In an age where we have more ways than ever to connect, to learn, to experience the world, most of us feel more scattered, more restless, more absent than any generation before. We wake up to notifications. We scroll through highlights of other people's lives before we've even taken a breath of fresh air. Our mornings belong to glowing screens, our afternoons to endless pings, our evenings to algorithms. And somewhere along the way, we forgot what it feels like to simply be here, to hear the sound of our own breath, to notice sunlight filtering through a window, to feel a moment stretch out, unclaimed by urgency. But the thing is, technology isn't the enemy. It's not the phone, not the apps, not the endless feed. The real issue lies in how we use them, or rather how they use us. You see, modern platforms weren't built to serve your peace. They were designed to hijack your attention, to keep you craving one more swipe, one more click, one more hit of dopamine. And when your mind is constantly pulled from one thing to another, from one tab to the next, it forgets how to stay present. It forgets how to rest. And this is where the ancient wisdom of mindfulness becomes not a luxury, but a necessity. Because mindfulness, at its core, is the art of reclaiming your attention, of remembering that you are not the content you consume, not the number of likes you collect, not the whirlwind of headlines or viral clips. You are the awareness watching it all. And the beautiful thing is, you can practice this awareness anywhere. While scrolling through your feed, ask yourself, what am I really looking for right now? Is it distraction, connection, validation? And can you pause just for a breath to notice that impulse without obeying it? When your phone buzzes, instead of reacting on autopilot, take a moment. Feel the pull, notice the craving, and gently choose whether this moment truly deserves your attention. When you're watching a video, notice if you're fully there or already halfway into the next thing. Because mindfulness isn't about escaping technology. It's about using it consciously. Like a sharp blade, it can either cut away your awareness or help you shape a life of presence. The practice is simple, though not always easy. One mindful breath before you unlock your phone. A silent pause before you open a new tab. A gentle check-in when you feel the itch to reach for a distraction. And in those tiny pauses, something shifts. You begin to catch yourself, to notice the restless patterns, to interrupt the trance. And with practice, those moments of awareness grow. What begins as a single mindful breath turns into a string of them. A morning where you greet the day before the screen. An evening where you savor your meal without a flicker of blue light nearby. A conversation where your eyes meet, undistracted. And slowly, the world softens, the noise fades. You rediscover the richness of ordinary moments, a cup of tea, the way the breeze moves through the leaves, the sound of rain against the glass, things you've seen 1,000 times but somehow missed. The great Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "When you love someone, the best thing you can offer is your presence." And perhaps in this hyperconnected world, that someone is you. Modern mindfulness isn't about renouncing your devices or disappearing into the mountains. It's about learning to live here, right in the heart of the digital storm, without being swept away. It's choosing again and again to come back to this breath, this step, this moment, and when you do, you'll find that peace was never somewhere far off. It was always here, waiting for you to notice. A quiet space beneath the noise. A steady flame behind the flicker of screens. A part of you untouched by the chaos of the feed. And as you claim that space, you begin to move differently through the world. Not as a passive consumer of noise, but as a conscious participant in your own life. This is modern mindfulness, not perfection, not uninterrupted calm, but a courageous, gentle returning over and over to the place you've never truly left. And as the ancient masters knew, this practice changes everything. Because once you see that your attention is yours to direct, your peace is yours to protect. And from here, a new kind of freedom becomes possible. The kind we'll explore as we venture deeper into the heart of this restless world and meet one of its oldest, most seductive traps. It's a strange thing, isn't it? In a world where you can send a message to someone on the other side of the planet in less than a second, real human connection feels like it's slipping further and further away. We scroll past images of war, disaster, and suffering with the same finger we use to swipe memes and dance videos. Tragedy, heartbreak, outrage, reduced to pixels in a never-ending stream. And it's not your fault. These platforms weren't built to nurture your compassion. They were designed to keep you engaged, to trigger just enough reaction to keep you scrolling, but not enough to make you stop. In this constant flood of curated chaos, it's easy to grow numb, to see people as usernames, to reduce complex human stories to trending hashtags. And yet, buried beneath the noise are ancient, compassionate hearts are still there, waiting to be remembered. The Buddha spoke of this centuries ago. He taught that suffering is a universal thread connecting all beings, that when we truly see the pain in others, we are witnessing a reflection of our own, not as an intellectual idea, but as a living, breathing truth. And maybe that's what the world is starving for right now. Not more information, not more outrage, but more presence, more empathy, more moments where we choose to pause and care. But how do you hold compassion in an age of algorithms? It begins in the smallest of places. When you see a hateful comment online, instead of reacting with more hate, can you wonder, what kind of pain might a person be carrying to lash out like this? When you stumble upon a heartbreaking story, instead of numbing yourself, can you offer a silent moment of kindness, a breath, a wish for ease, not because it will fix the world overnight, but because it keeps your heart alive? This is not weakness. It's not naivety. It's an act of radical strength to stay soft in a world that rewards hardness, to remain open when it would be easier to close off. And you don't need a monastery or a mountaintop to practice this. You can offer compassion in a comment section, in a text to a friend you haven't spoken to in too long, in choosing to really listen when someone tells you they're not okay. Because every act of compassion, no matter how small, ripples outward. The Buddha compared it to a drop of water falling into a still pond. It may seem tiny, but its effects reach further than you can see. And perhaps the most important place to direct this compassion is toward yourself. Because this hyperconnected world can be brutal. It fills your mind with impossible comparisons, pressures you to be constantly productive, perpetually happy, forever in control. And when you inevitably fall short, as every human heart does, it whispers that you're failing. But you're not. You're navigating a world our nervous systems weren't designed for. And the fact that you're still here, still seeking, still choosing kindness, even if only in fleeting moments, is extraordinary. So when you catch yourself numbing out, lost in the scroll, hardened by the flood of noise, pause, place a hand on your chest, and offer yourself the same tenderness you would give to a dear friend. It might sound simple, it might feel silly, but these small, quiet gestures of self-compassion are revolutionary. Because in softening toward yourself, you soften toward the world. You stop seeing people as content, as algorithms, as data points. You remember. Each person you encounter carries an invisible story, a private grief, a hope they're too afraid to say aloud. And in remembering this, your presence becomes medicine. Your words a balm, your silence a sanctuary. The algorithms may try to shape your mind, to dictate what you see, what you value, what you feel, but they cannot own your heart unless you let them. And every time you choose compassion, both for others and for yourself, you reclaim a little more of your humanity. It's not about fixing the whole system overnight. It's about not letting it turn you to stone. This practice, small as it seems, matters, because a kind heart in the age of algorithms is an act of rebellion, a form of wisdom, a spark of peace in a world starving for it. And from this spark, we'll begin to build something deeper, a way of relating not just to others but to our own mind, to the thoughts that haunt us, the distractions that chase us, the fears we rarely voice. Which brings us to one of the most ancient, and yet most needed, teachings for this modern age. Let's be honest, most of us don't realize how heavy we've become, not from the weight we carry in our hands, but from what we carry in our minds: notifications, news alerts, endless scrolls of content we didn't ask for but can't seem to look away from. The average person now touches their phone over 2,500 times a day, not because they need to, but because they can't stop. And somewhere along the way, we started confusing connection with consumption. The Buddha once said, "Just as a tree with too many branches becomes tangled and unstable, so too does a mind overwhelmed by craving." It's no different today. But instead of clinging to food or wealth or titles, many of us cling to digital noise. We hoard tabs we'll never read, chase notifications like tiny dopamine hits, curate identities with filters, captions, and carefully chosen highlights, and it leaves us exhausted, disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from the very peace we claim to be seeking, which is why now, more than ever, we need simplicity. Not as a trendy lifestyle aesthetic, but as a spiritual survival skill. Enter digital minimalism. But this isn't about tossing your phone into a river and moving to a cave. It's about reclaiming your attention, curating your digital life with intention, and recognizing that every bit of content you consume shapes your mind, for better or worse. It's the modern version of what ancient monks did when they left behind the noise of cities for quiet forests. Not because they hated people, but because they knew the value of protecting their inner world. And you have that power too. It starts small. Unfollow accounts that fuel comparison and anxiety. Turn off notifications that demand your attention but offer nothing in return. Create digital rituals, not habits. Maybe it's a sacred hour in the morning before you check your phone, a single screen-free day each week, a device-free corner in your home, a quiet place for real conversations, books, meditation. Because what we often forget is this: your peace is worth protecting, and it doesn't have to look dramatic. It's in the quiet decision to stop doom scrolling at midnight, in choosing a mindful walk over another hour of endless feeds, in saying no to things you don't actually care about just because an algorithm suggested them. The Buddha taught renunciation not as punishment but as a path to freedom, to release what no longer serves, to lighten the burden you carry. And in this hyperconnected world, renunciation might look like deleting an app, saying no to the impulse to check every ping, allowing yourself to be fully present in a single moment without needing to document it. There's a kind of sacredness in simplicity. A life uncluttered by noise creates space for wisdom to rise, for real relationships to deepen, for clarity to return. Because the truth is, you don't need to know everything. You don't have to comment on every issue. You don't owe your attention to every demand. Your mind was built for stillness, your heart for tenderness, your soul for simplicity. And in reclaiming that, even in tiny, imperfect ways, you begin to remember who you are beneath the static. It's not about being perfect. It's about being awake. When you reduce the unnecessary, what remains becomes clear. You see what truly matters. You realize how much of what you thought you needed was never yours to begin with. The monks weren't wrong, and you don't have to escape to a monastery to practice this. Your home can be your temple, your breath, your refuge, your ordinary moments your sacred ground. And from this place of simplicity, something unexpected happens. The anxiety softens, the endless craving for more quiets down, and a quiet, steady peace begins to take root. This isn't about escaping the digital world. It's about learning to live within it without being consumed by it, to touch technology without letting it possess you, to scroll with awareness, to choose depth over distraction, because simplicity at its heart is an act of courage. It's saying, I refuse to let the algorithms dictate the rhythm of my life. I choose presence. I choose peace. And as you carry this simplicity forward, you'll find something beautiful begins to bloom in its wake, a resilience, a quiet confidence, a sense of enoughness. And from there, there's only one thing left to explore: the wisdom of knowing when to let go, of stories, of identities, of the craving for constant connection. So in this final chapter, let's step into one of Buddhism's most powerful teachings, a lesson for every generation, but especially ours. A lesson about release, about lightening the heart, and about discovering the kind of peace that no algorithm can touch. Here you stand at the edge of a vast digital ocean, waves of information, connection, distraction, and possibility crashing endlessly around you. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, lost, or even powerless. But remember this: peace is not something you find out there, in the world beyond your screen. It's something you cultivate within. The Buddha's wisdom teaches us that every moment is an opportunity, a chance to awaken from autopilot, to choose awareness over reaction, to choose presence over noise. Digital wisdom isn't about rejecting technology. It's about learning to dance gracefully with it, to use it as a tool rather than letting it use you. It means setting boundaries that honor your mind's need for stillness, choosing compassion in a world designed to divide, embracing simplicity in an age of excess. This path isn't easy. It asks you to slow down when the world screams speed, to be gentle when the world demands toughness, to be patient when the world rushes past. But it's deeply rewarding, because the peace you seek is not a distant shore. It's already inside you, waiting quietly beneath the surface. And each small step you take away from distraction, each moment you turn toward kindness, each breath you take with full awareness, you water that seed of peace. In time, it grows strong enough to hold you steady, through the storms of life, through the endless noise of the digital age. So carry this wisdom with you. Make it your anchor and your guide. And when the algorithms try to pull you back into the endless scroll, remember your power. You have the power to pause, to breathe, to choose peace. Because in this dance between the digital and the divine, you are the choreographer of your own mind. And with wisdom as your partner, you can create a life that's not only connected, but deeply, profoundly free. Thank you for walking this path with me. May your journey be filled with clarity, compassion, and calm, and may your inner peace shine brightly, a beacon for yourself and for the world. If this journey into finding peace in our digital world resonated with you, I invite you to join our community here. Hit the subscribe button to stay connected and explore more timeless wisdom for modern life. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences on finding calm amidst the noise. And if you found this helpful, please share it with someone who might need a little peace today. Together, we can create a ripple of calm in this fast-paced world. Thank you for being here.